Important days, in my opinion, American history. It's our declaration of economic independence. My fellow Americans, this is Liberation Day. April 2nd, 2025 will forever be remembered as the day American industry was reborn, the day America's destiny was reclaimed, and the day that we began to make America wealthy again.
McDonald's issues a dire warning and Wendy's is about to go bankrupt. All things we're going to talk about today. But we're going to start today's video with a 4-minute clip of President Donald Trump talking to Laura Ingraham. Now, I'm going to start here because I think it's very important that we listen to what he's saying, because this man is running the U.S. and is running the economy. And when we listen to this, guys, first of all, I want to remind you, I am in no way playing politics. People ask me all the time, am I Republican? Am I Democrat? I'm for mom and pop every single time. I do not trust any politician. And to me, it's guilty until proven innocent. And so when we listen to this first video, I'm going to tell you right now, whether you voted for Trump or not, for me, listening to this, it was extremely, extremely painful. I felt completely betrayed about how he's talking about the economy. Now, after that video, obviously, we'll go into McDonald's and we'll go into Wendy's. But I'm telling you guys right now, this is a 4-minute segment we're about to listen to. I'm going to need you guys to hold on and listen to this entire thing, because don't forget, whether we like him or not, he represents you and he represents me.
The economy was listed as a top concern. I know you know this, for voters in New Jersey, New York, Virginia. And I've been all over the affordability issue today and for the last several months. Eggs, gas, dinner costs for Thanksgiving way down, but other things, as you noted, have gone up. Beef, coffee, auto repairs. Is this a voter perception issue of the economy, or is there more that needs to be done by Republicans on Capitol Hill, or done in terms of policy?
More than anything else, it's a con job by the Democrats. They're saying, they just have to say, you know, they put out something, say today costs are up. They feed it to the anchors of ABC, CBS, and NBC, and a lot of other, and CNN, and et cetera. And it's like a standard. I'll never forget, they had used a word like manufactured. Do you remember the word manufactured? It's a manufactured economy. Nobody uses that word. Every anchor broke through manufactured. They do exactly what they say. It's such a rigged system. So are you ready? Costs are way down. Gasoline is going to be hitting $2 pretty soon, or around $2. Gasoline is at $2.70 now, and it was at $4.50 under Biden, under Sleepy Joe. When gasoline comes down, when energy comes down, and everybody agrees energy's down, we're drill, drill, baby, drill. We're going like wild. We produce more gasoline, oil and gas in the last month than we ever have before, by far. And we're going to also end up filling up the national strategic reserves, which were taken out by Biden in order to try and win an election. Didn't work out too well. They tapped in. That's supposed to be for war, for national emergency, not to get.
So are you saying that voters are misperceiving how they feel, or?
So when I took over, you remember?
Because you said Biden did that too, because he was saying things were great, but things weren't great.
It's synonymous, Biden and Kamala, because you didn't know who the hell was campaigning. I mean, it got to a point. So I was up by 20 points on Biden or some crazy number. And they said, all right, let's get him out. We'll put a new one. This never happened to anybody. All of a sudden, they have somebody new. And they had the 6-week honeymoon, which was standard in the world of politics. You get a little honeymoon. And she had her little honeymoon, but then eventually people got to know her, too. And then they had the 60 Minutes catastrophe where they, changed her answer.
Housing costs are still out of reach. And another thing that your administration is trying to tackle, many Americans, the average age of first-time home buyers are now up to age 40, which is sad. The country you and I grew up in.
I inherited that. Look, you have to understand.
Right, but let me get to the question, though, because your housing director has proposed something that has enraged your MAGA friends, which is this 50-year mortgage idea. So a significant MAGA backlash, calling it a giveaway to the banks and simply prolonging the time it would take for Americans to own a home outright. Is that really a good idea?
It's not even a big deal. I mean, you go from 40 to 50 years. And what it means is 50, you pay something less from 30, that some people had a 40 and then now they have a 50. All it means is you pay less per month. You pay it over a longer period of time. It's not like a big factor. It might help a little bit, But the problem was that Biden did this. He increased the interest rates. And I have a lousy Fed person who's going to be gone in a few months, fortunately. I have a guy too late, Jerome Powell, we call him too late. He was too late in everything, except when it came to before the, the so-called Democrat election, which didn't work. But we're going to get interest rates down. But even with interest rates up, the economy is the strongest it's ever been. You asked me, just to go back to the beginning of your question, you talked about prices. We're down on energy. We're down on interest rate. Interest rates are down despite the Fed. Now, if we had a normal person at the Fed, would have really low interest rates, and we will soon have that. We'll have somebody that's.
And why are people saying they're anxious about the economy? Why are they saying that?
I don't know that they are saying. I think polls are fake. We have the greatest economy we've ever had. We will have over $20 trillion come into our economy, and it's largely because of my election, but it's also largely because of tariffs.
Comment below and let me know if you can kind of understand why I said those things and feel the way I do. I feel completely betrayed. He essentially said, we're crazy to say the economy is manufactured. Obviously, it's manufactured. Look at the deficit and look at the inflation. There's no way around that. He's also saying prices are going to go down shortly, and they're going to go down a lot. And it's not a big deal going from a 30-year to a 50-year, even though you pay the bank your entire loan amount all over again. The economy is the strongest it's ever been. Low rates are good. The polls of people that are struggling, it's fake. It's just a con job. Mitch, you're a doomer. Mitch, Travis, Real Estate Mindset, everyone that listens to us, it's just a doomer. We're cons. This isn't real. Mitch, how should have Donald Trump responded to her questions?
With the truth.
And what is that?
There's so many problems with the messaging that occurred in that interview. The economy is comprised of different elements. So let's call mom and pop an element of the economy. And to state to mom and pop that we're tone deaf, we don't hear you, we don't want to listen to you because you believe that you are being impacted by inflation, which was caused by the prior administration by virtue of the printing of money, that's being tone deaf. And you could see the look in President Trump's face. He didn't have the patience to break that question apart, and he should have. So mom and pop are one element. He's right on energy. Energy costs are coming down, and that does have a major impact. But he should have said it, not just said, well, this is down, and that's why this is nonsense on the other hand. You have to break these things apart to truly understand them. And the idea, he said voter perception is a con. Well, no, voter perception is what the Democrats have done. Voter perception is what the Republicans have done. Both parties participate in the exact same nonsense. They create division. If you tell the truth and you understand what the economic impacts are and why so many people are being evicted out of properties by virtue of foreclosure and or straight up evictions, and you look at the amount of people that are hungry, i.e. 4 million meals being fed by one entity here in Texas, these things all have a reason why they are occurring. Being tone deaf to them doesn't make them disappear. It makes them grow exponentially larger. So both parties are creating division. Both parties aren't telling the truth. I have a document that I wrote really early this morning on what Governor Abbott is proposing for tax relief that he's going to run on for the 4th term. So that's coming up momentarily, but it's the exact same problem. You can't be tone deaf to your citizens. Doesn't matter whether you're at the federal level or the state level. And President Trump also said that the polls are fake. Well, people's stomachs when they're hungry aren't fake. People losing their homes aren't fake. Obviously, the federal government, they have more knowledge than what we have as to where things are going. But the picture from where we sit right now simply doesn't add up to when President Trump says, well, we've got $20 trillion coming into the economy. That was another quote in that interview. Okay, that's great. Exactly how is that going to trickle down to mom and pop? The problems at the mom and pop level are extraordinarily real. Evictions are up. Foreclosures are up. You can't lie about these things. These are the numbers from the government. So I have a problem with the entirety of the interview because the messaging really sucks.
Mhm.
There's no other
Yeah.
way to say it.
Mhm.
And given what we're just coming off of now, over and above that, with regard to the government being shut down and both sides sniping at each other, nobody getting anything accomplished until, okay, finally, a handful of Democrats jumped over to the Republican side and said, we got to kill this off. We got to stop this. Great. But again, where's the impact on mom and pop? You've got allegedly 20 days, 25 days for the airlines to start being able to get back to normal based on the logistics. Then you've got problems with the people that are receiving the SNAP program, some of which is fraudulent, there's no doubt, but you can't make the other 70 or 80% hungry because of the 20% that are committing fraud. You got problems there too. Why is it that somebody just can't sit down and tell the truth? We've got this issue, we've got to fix this, instead of saying, well, we're going to be tone deaf and we're just going to keep moving forward. It's okay if $20 trillion is coming in by virtue of the tariffs. Hallelujah. Amen. Now, explain how it's going to get down to the mom and pop level. Finish the statement. Tell the truth.
Well, the only thing that's gone down to the mom and pop level, Mitch, is more mechanisms to create debt, to create forever debt. That's what's trickling down to consumers. And another thing that consumers are struggling with is not just evictions and foreclosures. Look at the buy now, pay later. That's adversely affecting the young youth of our generation. Massive delinquencies there. Look at the credit card delinquencies. Look at the credit card balances. Look at school loans, historical default in school loans. Look at our youth. If you're a millennial, look at our youth and tell me that we don't have a problem. These kids, and this is so sad, it keeps me up at night. Melody, Wright, and I, we always talk about this. These young men and women have forgot morals, integrity, how to save. And the biggest thing of all, they forgot that by being disciplined, you get ahead. And it's super duper discouraging. And all of that discipline seems to me to have been replaced by division created by our leaders. And it's absolutely disgusting. And here's where I'm at, Mitch. I don't know that we can get them to do their job. I believe the only way to create change is for mom and pop to unite. We got to keep waking people up and letting them know the only way to fix this is to stand up and fight. And that's why our lives are now revolving around putting an advocacy together, because it's going to start locally and it's going to start with the boards. And now back to the subject, the health of the consumer. Mitch, I'm going to go into a video now on McDonald's warning us that the health of the consumer is deteriorating. But before I do that, do you want to respond to anything I just said?
We got two issues. And on yesterday's video, I completely destroyed this notion of a 50-year mortgage. It is utter nonsense. And whoever in the White House thinks that that was a good idea should probably be removed. And then there's simply no way. If it was Bill Pulte, he needs to admit that he screwed up. That should never have been floated out by the White House itself. It's just out and out stupid. We destroyed it. It's on the record. Fine. I hope that they look at it. The other issue is mom and pop's ability, because remember, we're dealing at two different levels, federal and state. And the frustration is it takes people at a local level, mom and pop, at a truly local level, to be able to talk to their friends and their neighbors and their family, and not to be sniping at each other, but to say, here's my problem. And we now have the proof of concept. It worked. What a handful of people did in Johnson County, where they were able to talk to each other through a local Facebook group in mass. I believe that group is well over 14,000 people. That proof of concept absolutely works. And that's how you handle this. And again, bifurcate it. Say, well, this is my local school district tax problem. Good. That's one problem. This is my local, the way it affects me, what's happening at a federal level. So you start cutting these pieces down, and then you can communicate with people and say, I've got a problem with this school board. I have a problem with this superintendent. I have a problem with this chief appraiser. It always comes back to the people who are acting in reality in a criminal manner. And they are being backstopped, unfortunately, by what is deemed sovereign immunity. They think that sovereign immunity will get them away from fraud. And this happens, by the way, at both state and federal level. These are the same problems, is the point that I'm getting at. It's just happening at two different levels of the government.
Well,
Mom and pop
and
sitting still isn't going to get the job done. Mom and pop participating and understanding it is going to get the job done.
well, Mitch, they can't stay still. They've literally, mom and pop mostly has stayed still for the last few decades. Now, if they stay still, they get kicked out on the street. The cost
Yes.
of, and honestly, I think that's the system we have. If you stop working, you're out. You have to keep working if you want to be an American. That's what it seems like to me. Now,
I want to go on one more point on that. I want to explain to people, understand exactly what's happening. The government bureaucracy has gotten bigger. It's gone like this, its trajectory.
yes,
Your money, your personal income,
yes,
the cost of you living is going like this. In other words, you've got less money in your pocket because they've been able to flip the money from your pocket
yeah.
into the size of the bureaucracy. That is what has to stop.
It's a true issue. And real quick, before going into McDonald's, I wanted to remind you guys, we do have a Facebook group that we joined. It's not our Facebook group, but the reason why we joined it is because it's a true grassroots movement. And we really trust these people. It's full of fighters. It's actually the background you guys see in the video: Abolish, Ad Valorem, Property Tax, Horse Barn. Horse Barn is a classic. He's always loved horse barns. We're the good old boys, I guess is what you would say. But either way, if you guys want to join that, the link is in the description. You can go there. We're fighting in Texas bonds, ISD. We're fighting. And if you want to meet the fighters, at least here in Texas, you want to meet the real fighters, join that Facebook group. But let's go into McDonald's.
We've got McDonald's earnings today, and the company is not painting the rosiest picture of the economy. Mickey D is saying that Americans are cutting back, especially younger Americans, and they are not alone. Cava also slashing its sales forecast again. And brands from Coca-Cola to Chipotle, Brian's favorite, say that they're seeing the same thing: a widening gap between customers who are trading down and those who don't have to. The wealthy are spending, but the working class is trimming their value meals. Lou, how do you see this? I was just looking at all the stocks, and I was talking to Charles Payne earlier today. So the retail spider, the XRT, is down 6% in the last month.
Consumer discretionary has not been a
up.
very strong performing sector. It's sending mixed signals about the strength of the consumer. I think this is indicative of that. You're seeing value consciousness. But at the same time, I want to point out, and I know we always bring this up in tandem with these consumer stocks, but GLP-1 drugs are now going to be the best-selling drugs in the country now, outpacing Merck's Keytruda at over $30 billion a year. So think about that. That was a cancer drug. Now this is a weight loss drug. And you're pairing that with higher costs of food and less consumption. I think this is a trend that you really have to be careful with. Like Chipotle, I don't want to pick on Brian when he's not here.
Do it.
But that stock is not just suffering from sensitivity, economic sensitivity. It's suffering from brand staleness and just inconsistency, which is the bellwether of good franchises. It's everything is the same. I think McDonald's is very similar, right? They're going to bring out the value meal. I remember when hamburgers and cheeseburgers were 59 and 69 cents. When they get north and meals are costing $15 to $20. I'm not going to McDonald's. I'm going to find some other way.
That? The problem is the price got so expensive, it's no bargain anymore.
Right.
And if you're a health-conscious consumer, which many of our consumers are in America, not everybody, but more are, you also realize since the inflation crisis under Joe Biden, the quality of these cheap places, dining restaurants, the quality's gone down. You're using worse oils, cheaper meats. And so I do think there's a segment of the population sitting back and saying, I'm paying more for this. I'm getting less food and less quality. Maybe there is an alternative, and the cheapest alternative would be packing a snack from home.
Mitch, McDonald's must be a con job as well, because they're warning about the economy, and that probably would hurt President Donald Trump because we know he loves McDonald's. Now, when I hear them talk and I hear them say, oh, it's because the Democrats or it's because the Republicans, to me, they're doing that on purpose. If we're fighting each other and they're saying, hey, it's these people, then we're never going to get to the direct root of the problem. We're never going to have our attention on what really matters, which is stop paying the banks all of our money. Stop stealing from us and giving it to the banks or whatever else you guys are doing. It's absolute fraud. It's not fair to Americans. And we have huge Fortune 500 companies now saying, hey, there's problems in the economy, and those problems are starting with mom and pop. What do you make of that warning from McDonald's?
Deja vu. exact same thing they said in 2007, right? Except if you go back to 2007 and you look at where we are now, given the historic run-up in inflation, the historic run-up in compound cumulative interest, both at the federal and the state level, that is why all these warning signs are out there. And not only does President Trump like McDonald's, but just for the record, so did Bill Clinton. But you see, Clinton was there many years ago. And now you add the compound cumulative interest. And this is why they're flashing signs again. You can't go from a 59-cent hamburger to $10 or $15 and think that this is okay when the median household income didn't go up correspondingly. That's the problem. It's the debt, stupid. That's the problem.
You know, some people would say it wasn't McDonald's that did that, but rather the Federal Reserve. And someone that would say that would be me. If it was not for the Federal Reserve and property taxes, and actually, if only the government and the officials adhered to the Constitution of the United States of America, would we be in the problems we're in now, Mitch?
Yeah, no, no.
We would not. No,
absolutely
right.
not, because even the property tax wouldn't exist. It's not allowed under the 16th Amendment. And that's what we're saying. Get rid of the property tax in favor of the uniform state sales tax. That fixes this problem for mom and pop at a local level. And then with regard to the federal debt, we've got the exact same problem, right? They're no better than the school districts. We're just going to spend and spend and spend, and somebody else's term will end up having to pay for it. But it's compound cumulative, and that's the problem. Like I said, it's the debt, stupid. Right?
Well, they're starting to get it, Mitch, because as we're gonna go into our next segment, which is on Wendy's. It seems like Wendy's is knocking on the door of bankruptcy, and some people have messaged me, Luke, shout out to you, that this is a recessionary indicator, because just like what you just said, history repeating itself again, the same thing happened to Wendy's during the global financial crisis. I'll show you their stock after this article. Coming out yesterday evening, Wendy's quietly confirms store closures next year. And again, I'm going to show you their stock here in a minute. Very much so resembles what happened during the global financial crisis. Wendy's plans to close hundreds of U.S. restaurants over the next few months in an effort to boost its profit and make its remaining stores more appealing. Well, then reduce the price of the food. The company said it expected a mid-single-digit percentage of its U.S. stores to be affected, but it didn't give any details on which stores those may be. Now, I don't know if you guys were surprised by this number, but I was. Wendy's ended its third quarter with 6,000 U.S. restaurants. That is so many U.S. restaurants. Pity they can't make the food taste better. If 5% of the locations were impacted, it would mean roughly 300 stores would close going into the remaining part of this year. The new round of closures comes on top of the already 250 locations it closed in 2024. So they're closing even more than they did this year than they did last year. Now, when we look at the system today, we have some restaurants that do not elevate the brand and are a drag from a franchise financial performance perspective. So let's just call it what it is. They're not making money, right? They're not making money, and that's the real drag here. Now, Cook said in some cases, Wendy's will make improvements to struggling stores, including adding technology or equipment, AI, automation. In other cases, it will transfer ownership to different operators to close the restaurant altogether. U.S. fast food chains have been struggling to attract low-income customers in the past few years as inflation has raised the price. Cook said he expects lower-income consumers to remain pressed for the rest of the year. Now, Wendy's revenue did fall 2% to $1.63 billion, but their net income fell 6% to $138 million. Cook said $5 and $8 meal deals, which have been matched by McDonald's, have helped bring some traffic back to U.S. stores, but Wendy's isn't doing a good job bringing new customers, and the reason is people don't want to pay $20 for a hamburger meal. Now take a look at Wendy's stock. This is as of today. The market hasn't closed yet. I'm going to show you guys the max real quick, so you guys can see this is very interesting. Now, again, I'm not saying this is a recessionary indicator, but it's probably a recessionary indicator. But look at what happened to their stock right here. This is right before the global financial crisis. So right before the global financial crisis, Wendy's wasn't doing good, probably as a direct result of consumers being broke, just like consumers are broke right now. So some people are saying like, hey, look it, the same thing is happening right now because we are knocking on the front door of recession. So despite Trump calling me basically a con for saying these things, the same thing happened last time. Not saying it's 100% going to happen this time, but it's very interesting because this is a direct result of inflation and consumer spending. Mitch, can't we say that restaurants doing poorly and giving us warnings is a direct sign that we probably are in a recession and that mom and pop are really not doing good at the end of the day. Can't we say that?
Absolutely. You can drive around your neighborhood, just depending on where you live, and see the ramifications of these problems. When inflation causes debt and interest rates to run up, which it does, then those are operating expenses, no different in a business than they are with mom and pop. So mom and pop is a business model. Your household operating expenses are a business model. A business, i.e. a restaurant, it has operating expenses as well. It's a business model. Doesn't matter how you look at it. These things have to be paid. And if they're not paid, that's the definition when your liabilities exceed your assets of bankruptcy. And in order to stave off these problems of corporations, because they have multiple locations, i.e. Wendy's or McDonald's, they get rid of what is non-performing. Mom and pop can't do that. They've only got the one asset. And if it's non-performing, it's leave, hand in the keys, get evicted, or go into foreclosure. The options are all bad. Therefore, it behooves everybody to be fighting these issues and get the education up front, which is not being done at your school districts. And that gives you another reason to complain. Your children do not understand this. Your children are not being taught this. So mom and pop that are in this problematic position, it's a huge issue. Not only do they face it today, but in reality, poverty begets poverty. It's very difficult to get out of this cycle when you do not understand what's happening. Had people been taught for the last 20 years the ramifications of creating debt out of thin air and putting it on the backs of all citizens, because that's in reality, that's what's happening. It's all citizens, not just property taxpayers. This is bad. This will end badly. Therefore, there are solutions. We've gone through those solutions. But with all that said, it's still up to mom and pop. And voting for people, i.e. communists, isn't going to get the job done, right? That's the worst thing that can happen. It's going to make the system, i.e. New York, get worse before it gets better. When mom and pop get involved, it always gets better. You cannot leave it up to the politicians. They've proven time and time again not to be capable of handling the job.
They are not, under any circumstances, capable of handling the job. And so here's how I want to conclude, you guys. I want to issue a call of action. And I want to challenge you guys to start learning what's happening. Before you fight with us, we need you to fight with us, but please start learning. And I want to challenge you, either go to Mitch's website or my website and either read the one-page document that I made for you with all of the talking points on how to abolish property taxes, or take my course on credit and learn how credit works. But either way, it's all there for you guys to use. We want you to use those things. We are issuing you a call of action because as we continue to wait to put this advocacy together, we need you guys educated, because in order to fight, you kind of have to know a little bit about how the fighting works. Now, I am going to ask for a little bit of patience, you guys. I'm still working on my website to give you guys an example of the advocacy. Mitch is also working on another website for the advocacy. We're trying to do the best we can, but don't forget, we're also fighting on the front lines. So we got to build the advocacy. We got to fight on the front lines, and I got to stop and prevent myself from going bankrupt. It's very challenging, you guys, but I will not give up on you, and I will not give up on mom and pop. And that's something that you guys can take to the bank. Now, having said that, if you guys are out there just trying to learn about what's going on and trying to learn how to fight, you guys already know. We wish you luck. We need you. We love you. Hold on to your hope, and we hope you win.